Rebellions are built on hope.
And welcome to another episode of Radio Rebellion, a Star Wars podcast. I am your host, Alberto Calderon, and thank you for joining us on this great Star Wars Saturday after Thanksgiving feast. If you celebrate, congratulations. If you're not, that's fine. People that worked are so sorry that you had to work. But we're here talking Andor finale, and not just Andor finale. This is the season 5 finale for us here at Radio Rebellion. We'll be taking a break after this, so thank you everyone for joining us. Otis not here, but that's fine. We have two great guests, some of our favorites. Maggie, Lovitt is back here, and Arezou, Amin. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Of course. Thanks again for joining. It's always a pleasure to have you guys here, and especially talking about something like Andor. I needed some good guests today, and who else?
Thank you.
All right, so like I said, it's going to be our season 5 finale. We're going to take a short break. We won't be here next week. Then we'll be back on the 10th, December 10th for our trivia finale. Also, I know you tried out twice. This close, so close to get there. So close. But we have our finale December 10th, and then we're taking a big breaks. I don't know, mid-January or late January, we'll be back. And we'll see if we bring Gotti back. I don't know. We'll see how we feel about it. I'll say I want to apologize on his behalf. Not that he's not here, but I heard that he went on Space Waffles. He flaked out twice. When he finally got there, he was a disaster.
He lost power.
I know, I'm joking.
And then we caused him to disassociate.
Yeah, we made it. At least he didn't get canceled because that happened the next 2 weeks.
I heard.
Canceled, so at least he didn't get canceled.
Hopefully no one gets canceled today here with us. But yes, I heard that some takes on pairing. Maggie might got you and some other people canceled. We might talk about pairing at the end of this show, see where we land at. But if you're watching this today live, thanks for being here. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, or that fun thing you're supposed to do when you're on YouTube. And if you're listening to us or watching us later on the replay, make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment down below or whatever. It's we're here. Let's just go ahead. I think it's time. Well, let me check who's here. Who's here today? Our friend Andres Alvarez, of course, from 60 Minutes is here. How you doing, Andres? Bring those bricks. We need those bricks. And Mo is here as always. Thanks for being here. And of course, we gotta have those bricks and beat a few fascists. There was a great scene. It's just, you don't expect it. So how are you going to use someone's ashes? How to remember them by? Let's just break someone's head. That was great.
I don't want to become a tree. I want to become a brick to beat up fascists.
Yes. There you go. All right. So before we start, everyone knows down on the description of this video, you can find different links to help for the Amidala Initiative for Abortion Funds, National Network of Abortion Funds. Amidala Initiative for Equality Texas, a What Choice fundraisers, and different ones to help Puerto Rico recover from the hurricane, all this stuff over there. So please go ahead and check those out. But if you guys are ready, I'm ready. Let's talk Star Wars and the Andor files.
I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old.
Has he? We gotta say it for our friend Oti. He'll be back on that 10th. He'll be back.
He'll be back to give his opinions.
Yes, if he listens to this, he'll be mad that I said all that stuff about him. But no, we love him here. All right, so Maggie, I'll start with you because you were here for our first Andor kind of recap. We talked about those first 3 episodes. I can't believe it's been like 9 or 10 weeks. I don't know. It went by pretty fast. Every episode that we were here, this is going to be the one. It's next week, the one that's going to deep down. We're going to not enjoy an episode. It's going to be filler. Nothing. It just kept a roller coaster that never kind of went down. Just, if you can, just in a couple of sentences or whatever, just recap what this first season was as we came into this finale.
This first season essentially paralleled Jen's story in Rogue One and taking somebody who is perfectly comfortable with being complacent, even though they shouldn't be, and showing them why complacency is not the right path and putting them onto that path towards Rogue One, essentially. And the way that Tony Gilroy has constructed this to tell that story and to see why Cassian is the man that he is when we meet him in Rogue One has just been exceptional.
Yeah, it was something that, and I've said I don't know how many times, I thought, yeah, by episode 3, episode 4, we'll see Cassian turn into that person we see in Rogue One. When we just kept building and building, it's what's going to be that catalyst, what's going to turn him, and then it had to all kind of come down to what happened in this finale. Also, I've talked to you, again, I had the privilege of being on your show, Space Waffles, a few weeks ago, but just coming again into the finale, just your overall thoughts on the season, and then very quickly what your thoughts were on the way that first season ended.
So my thoughts on the season overall, I am consistently impressed with how they resisted the temptation to make it bigger, because I think every Star Wars story wants to tie into the larger narrative, and we kind of have that with like Mon Mothma and Saw Gerrera and all of that, but they're outside of Cassian's immediate story, so he's not part of the bigger story yet. And they kept it very focused on him, on his home, on Ferrix, on his problems. And they did that consistently for 12 episodes. So I remain very, very impressed that they didn't give into the temptation to go big or go home. Because it was a pretty, now moving into the finale, it was a pretty impactful finale. And they definitely went big by having this full-scale brawl kind of break out on Ferrix. But it was big for them, but it wasn't big in the grand scheme of things.
Sure, and it kind of leads off one of the notes I had, that the finale gave us what the story needed, not maybe what we as fans or some of us kind of expected. I expected Cassian to be in the middle of Ferrix, leading the chance, Stone Sam Sky, leading the charge against the Empire. I know he was nowhere to be seen. He wasn't part of that. He was doing his own thing, getting big. But that's what the story needed, right? It was this community coming together against the Empire that has kind of taken over Ferrix, which is then goes back to that speech from Maarva that they just kind of forgotten that the Empire, and we'll get to that. But for you, Arezou, and I, of course, Maggie, also then to you, how did you feel seeing this community kind of riled up behind one of their own, not just Cassian, but Maarva, and even B2, because when B2 got pushed down, that's when all hell break loose. And you don't do that to our droid.
Yeah. No survivors because they hurt B2. I feel like everybody in the Star Wars community is sick of hearing me say it, but the fact that Andor has so neatly paralleled very real world events going on right now that impact me very personally with what's going on in Iran, seeing like everybody sort of rally behind one of their own and basically tear everything to the ground in the name of justice. It hit in a way that I don't think it would have hit at any other time. Like if it had come out when it was supposed to come out in August, I don't think it would have hit the same as it did. So it was like intense, not in a bad way, but it was definitely very intense.
Okay. Was it difficult watching it, having those real life experiences, kind of not just, okay, that's what's going on? Because I can say, yeah, that's what's going on in Iran. It doesn't affect me, obviously, the same way as it might. Was it difficult seeing that and making that connection? Or was it, I don't want to say in a positive light, but I don't know.
It felt blurry for me, like going from like the news to this and back. There was like if I had gone from the news to like Obi-Wan Kenobi, there is a very clear cut there about what the news is and what the show is. But this kind of, it just melded so seamlessly that like I watched it every week. I was keen to watch it every week and talk about it every week. It was hard to get quote unquote excited every week because it was just seeing, I mean, it was a good thing in seeing that these kinds of people, these kinds of movements have not gone unacknowledged by the wider world, and everyone does see what this is. So that was a good thing, but not a particularly happy thing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. How do you see, Maggie, for you, just again, seeing the community rally around Cassian, the people of Ferrix, that, I mean, if you've been living in the United States for the past 6 years, seems like every couple of months or whatever, there's a new protest, people just in the street for what the government has been doing, or just different police brutality and all that, kind of hits home for a lot of people. Obviously, I'm guessing you kind of felt that way, and then how did you see this just in the Star Wars universe?
Oh yeah, you can tell that this was made in that 2020 period of time, because like it's impossible to look at police with riot gear and not remember the pictures that were on the front pages of all the newspapers. And it's interesting to see how somebody who is very thoughtful and intentional in the way that they craft this story can take those images and apply it on Star Wars and not seem like grotesque, that it doesn't seem like a mockery of anything. Like it was done so smartly and so respectfully, the way that it pulled from a wide variety of things. I mean, if you read any of Tony's interviews, he talks about like 3,000 years of history and how this is like consistently just been a repeat, unfortunately, because, you know, society never learns. And I think it's interesting. I said this last night on Space Waffles too. I think it's really interesting how when Rogue One came out, I know for me and a lot of other people, it hit so hard because it came out right after Trump was elected president. And, you know, we had that like the election day and then Rogue One came out. But that was made 2 years before that. So it was like it predicted this like this feeling and like struck a chord. And yet again, we see Andor, made 2 years earlier, comes out like within 3 weeks of something that strikes such a chord. And it just shows like, this is why I love this kind of Star Wars, because it's cathartic in a lot of ways to like process the things that are happening in society through like a science fiction space opera like lens, and showing like the stories, because it's Star Wars is about like, and like the Empire is like, there's no mistaking that. And so often I think we get lost in like, ooh, lightsabers, and we lose sight of the fact that like really bad stuff is happening in the Star Wars galaxy. I mean, Star Wars started with Princess Leia being like, you know, interrogated and tortured for information. And it's like, it gets lost in like the fun.
Yeah. I mean, I'm reading Convergence right now, and there's these, what is it? The forever war between these two planets because of something that they can't even remember. And it keeps going into from phase one. We know this, unfortunately, won't end here. No spoilers, we'll get into that at some point. So just one thing, and I want to jump back to, does it feel like Star Wars? Is this the way that Star Wars should go moving forward? But it reminded me seeing when the people of Ferrix came, and then the police could just kind of meet them in the middle and start kind of escalating everything. 6 years ago, 5-6 years, whenever Hurricane Maria went by Puerto Rico, and then the government over there did a crappy job with trying to help everyone. And there were daily or nightly protests every day in the island till the governor had to say, okay, I'm done, and gotta step down. I mean, they made the governor step down because of just the way he handled the situation. But every night at the end, police escalation and a lot of violence. It kind of reminded me of like you said, Maggie, again, check all the Collider articles that Mike has written down, because there's that quote. Yes, there's a lot, but they're great. And there's those quotes from Tony Gilroy saying this is go back through history. Yeah, it takes from this part, from this one, from this one. It's not just, I got inspired by one thing. It's just how history keeps repeating itself, unfortunately. Before I go back to that question, let me say hi to our friend Nick is here. Saying hi to Arezou and Maggie, the best. Of course, they're the best. Oh. And then Andres adding a bittersweet Tony listening moment every Wednesday morning. Yes. Brent Mars here. Brennan, sorry. Thanks for being here. And Paige Turner. Paige Turners, they were not. Thanks for joining us today.
I love that.
But yes. Again, it's Star Wars, because we'll get out again how serious it is. But the other side, it's how one little silly comment, Paige Turners, they were not, is something that we all can now relate to. But Maggie, you mentioned it, that yes, Star Wars sometimes we get lost in the pew-pews and the lightsaber, which I'll say it's my favorite thing about it. But it's Star Wars for a reason. It's there because there's a war between the Empire and the Rebels. And then not a lot, but some of the criticism against Andor since the first episode was, it doesn't feel like Star Wars. And I'm not talking about the grounded or too greedy, but people just saying it doesn't feel like Star Wars. And the other side saying, oh, this is what Star Wars needs to be moving forward. Do you think there's a balance that we can strike between having the campiness that a lot of us grew up with Star Wars to the serious side? But I think, at least on my end, of course, we can have that balance. It's just the care that they took with Andor, right? Mm-hmm. You can apply that to everything else in Star Wars, still be Mandalorian, Boba Fett, or something new with lightsabers. You apply that type of care in production, all that stuff. It can still have the same impact, but it doesn't have to be as serious as Andor, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's aspects of Andor that I wish other shows would take. Like, I think that the practical sets make for much more compelling locations and much more realism. I love the volume. I think it can be used in a lot of really interesting ways, but every set does not need to be the volume. Every character in Andor had a name, a family, friends, connections. They went out after work for drinks. You know who these characters are, whereas other ones are like, here is Man 2. Oh, well, yeah, he's a man, so of course he's named Man. Like, that's the kind of care that I want to see them learn from. Everything doesn't have to be a spy thriller, but everything should have characters that are like not just an action figure on screen.
Yeah. Are you feeling the same way, Arezou, or should a Weequay that gives you a drink, should he just be called Weequay? Give me a drink.
I mean, listen, maybe he doesn't trust anybody and that's just the name he gives up. I think I agree. I liked the fact that you could really feel the environment they were in. I liked that everybody had a name and a life and habits. I also think what we mean, or what, I don't want to speak for everybody, but what I mean when I'm like more Star Wars should be this way is like, it should all be intentional no matter what story you're telling. So just, this is your thesis, whatever your thesis is, and stick to it. And really commit to telling that story in a way that makes the most sense for that story. And don't worry about, I mean, I understand from a corporate perspective, there's got to be some connectivity, but don't get so lost in it that you lose sight of the story you're telling. And I think if you do that, then it could be any genre. It could be a spy thriller, a romance, a pew-pew story. Like, it could be anything. And still have that Star Wars heart if you commit to what you're trying to tell.
I love subtle connections. I don't like feeling like I have to pull out one of my random Star Wars guidebooks to go back and look for a character and be like, oh, that's right. I like the little, subtle ways they've connected things, or having a showrunner that was like, yeah, whatever. I let my prop people put all the artifacts in there. I don't really care.
I love Tommy Gilroy because every interview, he doesn't care. He will tell you what he thinks.
He talks about everything. He tells you what's coming. Like, I love this man. I want this kind of openness.
I've said it before. I think before season 1 started, we've learned so much about season 2. It's like, okay, we're there. It's 5 years. It's gonna have these jumps. K2 will be there, and all this other stuff. And through all those interviews, he keeps talking about it. Yes, great. I don't need to. Everything doesn't have to be secret. Yes. Yeah. But same, like you said, when Anton Krieger, or that name was mentioned, I went through Wikipedia. I went back to Catalyst. I looked at all who's that person? Oh, that's a new guy we just invented. Oh, okay. I'm wasting time then. Because yes, we're used to that, but it doesn't matter. It's just a new character and they build that story as go forward. All right. So jumping now into the episode, Arezou, I love that we didn't start, but the first time that we see Andor, he's visiting Clem's brig, like his father's brig. And going through the history of him, just cleaning these old items that people discard, or it's like, what does he say?
People don't look down.
Yeah, people don't look down, and it keep your eyes open. There's possibilities everywhere. It kind of starts pushing Cassian to that person we'll meet later. But I love seeing that, and then of course going to Nemik's manifesto and everything that talks. I'm just going to read real quick. It goes, freedom is a pure idea. And this is just some snippets full from it. Freedom is a pure idea. Even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lives forward. Imperial need for control is so desperate. It's unnatural. Oppression is the mass of fear. And I know you like this one, Maggie. Remember this. Try. So Arezou, for you, finally hearing more about Nemik's manifesto, kind of in the background as Cassian is visiting his father's brig, and we get a little bit more of his story. What were you thinking from this? And Nemik, he's still around.
I like that Nemik's spirit is still around, because I think we were all talking when we first met Nemik that him and his manifesto were going to play like a big part in making Cassian the man he is when we meet him later. But what I like is that we have this big climactic fight. The Empire has come to Ferrix. Everybody's fighting them. Cassian's not involved at all. He is still looking out for number 1 and then maybe like number 2, 3, and 4, like his immediate friends. He's just taking care of that on the side. But having Nemik's manifesto play and have him visiting Clem's brick and remembering Clem saying, like, look down, the possibilities are everywhere. People don't pay attention to people like us. They're planting the seeds for the person he's going to be. And I like that in a season finale, they didn't feel the need to have this huge ta-da kind of character shift with Cassian. And it's really just laying the groundwork for like where he's going to go in season 2.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. For you, Maggie, same thing. I remember when Nemik's manifesto was mentioned and all the episodes through a lot of people, he's going to be maybe the one that has rebellion are built on hope and all this. And I'm like, wait, and here it comes. Rebellion's going to be built on hope. Doesn't come, but the message is still there. You've tweeted out that last bit that remember this try was one of your favorite. What about it kind of caught your eye, I guess?
I think that because that was kind of the vibe that I got when I came out of Rogue One. Like, it doesn't matter as long as you try. And so hearing it repeat it, like the feeling, it was like, this is the feeling that Rogue One made me feel. And then to hear it brought into like the groundwork for Rogue One, I was just like, yes, this is, it just hit in such a way. It actually made me cry. That whole like manifesto was just like, it was the look on Cassian's face while he's listening to it, like the recognition that he's realizing like Nemik was right. Like, this is something that we have to do. Like, we're morally obligated to try to make the world a better place. It hit the right chords and just left me with the good feels.
I'll be a hypocrite if I wouldn't say that I mentioned here I wasn't that affected when Nemik beat the dust. I'm like, okay, well, you play your part. You're dead. Thanks for playing.
His death was so fascinating too, because he literally died under the weight of money, which is like any person who's read Karl Marx would just like have a field day with that. Capitalism crushing you.
Yeah.
If you turn that into an editor after writing it, they'd be like, this is too on the nose. You need to take this out.
Yeah. And I was one that said, okay, once that happened, and then Cassian was taken prisoner, the manifesto still on Narkina, so that's not going to play anything. So I love that it came back. We saw it last week that he went back, grabbed the gun, the credits, and the manifesto was still there. And I love that he still played a part here, moving the story forward. We go from there to then Cassian trying to find Biggs at her place. Pegla's there. He's like, what the hell is going on? And kind of knows, is told there what's happened. Then it's down in the tunnel. Our good boy, Brasso comes there, and they give the best hugs. And I'm like, oh man, I need one. I need. But it also was, and 20,000 people have said it, we don't see this in television in general, in Star Wars, this type of male relationships, right? And it was great. And it wasn't just a hug. Hey, you're fine. You're good. Let's talk. It was I feel
it was a hug.
It was
a hug.
Yes.
It was a hug.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're alive. Like this kind of genuine affection.
And then goes to, I guess, the second of 3? I don't know how many great speeches there were in this episode, which is something there's every week there's 2 or 3 speeches, but then just him recanting that what Maarva told them. And of course, I'm going to read it because as a parent, I need to me, it was the last line of this one that got to me. But she's like, tell him he knows everything he needs to know and feels everything he needs to feel. And when the day comes that those two pull together, he will be an unstoppable force for good, which of course, we know how that's going to play out. I lost my, okay. Tell him I love him more than anything he could ever do wrong. And then as a son or a daughter, you want your parents to always feel that for you. No matter how much you're going to screw up, they'll be there for you. And as a parent, at least myself, it's no matter how much my kids, which I love you dearly, how much they'll screw up, we're always going to be there for them. I don't care. We're going to love you more than anything you can ever do wrong. So that's like, and of course for Cassian, he needed to hear that. They left after a fight. Like I said, we were fighting, we're arguing. He tries to get the message. She'll be proud of me. I'm doing good. So he doesn't know how she feels, but to hear that is what he needed. And of course, everything else before that, telling him she's going to be a force for good when all this comes together. Maggie, Maarva, even in death, inspiring Andor and all of us to move forward.
Oh God, that line is just everything. I wish we had seen that more in other parental units throughout Star Wars, not to mention Ben Solo, but like would have loved something like that from Leia.
We're both here. It was bound to happen.
It's bound to happen. It's that kind of unconditional love that I don't think that we have necessarily seen in Star Wars. It's certainly been implied, but we've never gotten this direct correlation and heard it. And it makes looking ahead at Rogue One, I'm going to keep talking about Rogue One, so much of the stuff with the way that Cassian approaches Jen and her father, that much more impactful because he says the things to her that he needed to hear when he lost Maarva. And the way that Tony has like just completed the circle with that is just, again, I'll just say magnificent. Like this whole scene, this had me crying. This had my mom crying. It was like the manifestor started making me cry. Then he had to go talk about Maarva, and that made me cry. And then Maarva started talking, and then I was crying again. It was just like this episode.
Yeah. Also, so we got, Maggie kind of alluded to it. Finally, a mother in Star Wars not dying, but inspiring her son, and just later on the whole people of Ferrix. But again, I know you guys have mentioned this 20 times in your shows, like people don't need to die to kind of move the other guys, the stars or the protagonist story forward. Even though she dies here, at least it's natural causes, and her story moves on, and she's still alive, giving all these speeches. She's
alive in each and every single one of them.
Yeah.
But like Andres is saying, Edie would never. Like Edie Carr, she would, come on, eat your cereal and get the hell out of my house. But this interaction in that tunnel, first with Cassian, Brasso, and then the big speech by Maarva.
I think the other speeches, like Nemec's manifesto and Maarva's speech in the square, are the kind of, they were very well written and they're very moving, but they're the kind of speech we get a lot of, like rebellions. They're built on hope. Like we have this kind of rally, call to arms speech all the time. But we have never, to my recollection on screen, had a parent express this much unconditional love so intensely. And I think that's really been missing because a lot of the characters, what messes them up at some point in their life is this idea that their parents don't love them. We see it with Ben Solo. We see it with Poe Dameron. Like he doesn't think his dad loves him, so he runs off to be a spice runner. Like which is like a thing that teenagers do. They don't think their parents care about them. But Cassian at this point in his life has, I guess, reason in his mind to think that his mother would be disappointed, that she doesn't love him, that she regrets like he has reason to believe all of this because he's just spent a month in prison because of everything he's done wrong. So to have Brasso say, no, even at the end of her life, she still loves you more than anything you could have ever done wrong, was exactly what he needed to hear. I think it's exactly what we needed to hear because we don't get enough genuine, prolonged parental affection for like their adult children.
Yeah, that's what's
like
so
babies
shocking.
all the time, but for adult children, not at all.
And then you have like Shmi and Anakin. Obviously, she loved her child. You have that like with children, but you haven't seen like a grown adult son having that, you know, affection.
And like whatever a kid does wrong is, for the most part, to scale for a child. Like their idea of wrong versus what an adult is capable of doing are on two completely different levels. So I think for like you said, like as sons, daughters, as adult children, seeing this kind of parental affection expressed on screen where no matter how old you get, no matter how much you mess up, your parent loves you more than anything you could have done wrong, hits very, very hard.
Yeah. And we know Cassian's been up to no good his entire life. He's constantly getting into trouble. He's now been into prison twice.
That we know of.
Of course. Don't ask him that in Rogue One, of course. Never.
He'll clean his slate, and that's what he'll say. Mo is adding that the only thing that comes close to her memory is that message within Galen and Jean, of course, going back to Rogue One. I don't know how much Tony Gilroy had to do with that message. Who knows? Maybe he wrote it. But yeah, again, I'm past 42 years old. I even forget how old I am. But you always want to hear that from your parents, even if you're 18, 20, 40, if your parents are still around, you still want to hear this. Unfortunately, my parents are not around anymore. We had a great relationship moving forward, but time to time you kind of imagine, what if they were still here? Would they still be proud of me and all that stuff? So it's great that a show like this, that young, middle-aged, but 20, 30, 40-year-old fans are watching, still can connect to that. It's not just for kids. We all need to hear that once in a while. But the Empire, thinking they can control everything, said, yeah, we're going to have a funeral procession. Only 40 people are going to show up.
As soon as I heard that number, I was like, that's funny.
Oh, man. And then we have this brass band and the whole marching band starts. And that was a great scene. I'll say I've been a little bit critical with the score, that it works for me on the show, not away from the show. If I just listen to a piece of music outside from watching the episode, it doesn't connect to me too much. But this whole funeral procession was beautiful. The music was great here. Everyone just walking down the streets was perfect. And then the Empire having no idea what's going on, where they're coming from, what's happening. There's like 150 people there. And in cutting, even before this, I think it's the way the show started, is Pac's son building this bomb, right? Which I know he's the good guy. He's fighting the bad guys, the Empire. If this was Cyril Khan building a bomb, we will all be here. See, that's not indoctrination, but just going more and more into madness. I do understand where he's coming from, because his dad was hanged in the middle of the square. But it's still a little bit, I don't want to say it's close to home, because I haven't been there, but we've heard in the news people just making these homemade bombs and then blowing half whoever's around and not caring if they're going to hurt any innocent people. So that was still kind of jarring to see, even if it was from the good guys, quote unquote, kind of point of view. But what were your thoughts on this, also this funeral procession, just the marching band going forward, as we're getting ready to hear Maarva's speech with Brasso again just carrying her brick, leading this procession?
I was surprised the Empire let it go on as long as it did.
Yeah.
I kept expecting for them to intervene, and then they just kept getting closer and closer, like down Rick's Road into the square. And I'm like, okay, I guess they're gonna I knew they were waiting to draw Cassian out, but I was surprised that they didn't meddle sooner. And then I also thought it was very funny when the speech started and the guy tried to cover B2's photo receptor, like the hologram thing, and then his coat slides off and he makes no effort to push it back up. I thought was very funny. But yeah, I liked the music too, like you said, like it was the one that really kind of stood out for the season.
Yeah, that Imperial Tigo, he's the worst. He's right next to the Emperor right now, and people are hating Star Wars. But Maggie, same thing, just hearing that music, everyone, you mentioned it, 40 people, come on, that's dumb. Everyone's going to show up. She's a prominent member of Ferrix. They said it like 2 straight episodes. And then just getting there, and then B2, of course, because we love him so much. Like Andres said before, this is a serious show, but every time B2, we all turn back to those kids, why we love Star Wars and droids. As that message plays on, what were your thoughts going into? Same thing as Arezou. I was right there, Arezou, like, why are they letting this go on for so long? Because that guy, he just wants to kill everyone. But it's Deidre kind of saying, no, stop, don't put no snipers here, I need them alive. What are your thoughts going into it as we then play this hologram message?
Going back to the bomb building, I thought that was a fantastic way to start the episode, because it set the stage and like the tone for what was going to happen. Like I told you, something is going to blow up at some point in this episode. And I also thought it was interesting how it was used to show like the different ways people react to grief. Because like Cassian's form of like grief of his mother is, I'm going to rescue Bix. Like that's my prime like focus. And then you have Willman, who is grieving his father on such a large scale of like looking for a way to punch back. Like, you took my dad, okay, I'm going to take out like all of your people. And I like the way that they set that up. And I like that there was no dialogue at all. You instantly know what he's building. Like, you know, that's bomb. And I like the follow through of that. And I also love like when we hit the inciting moment of that, how Brasso was like, nothing's happening to this kid. I'm getting this kid out of here. Like the way that the community, like going back to the other conversation about community is like so good. But I love that they're terrified of a marching band. The way that they reacted to hearing music was just hilarious. And it again went back to like the whole like power doesn't panic, and they are freaking out over a marching band. They're freaking out over Anvil guy. Like, and the way that it ties back into that 3-episode premiere with them banging on things and the way that so unnerved them. And then when you look at what the Empire looks like on the inside, how very sterile and clinical and like devoid of personality. None of these people are sitting around listening to music at their desks. Like, it just shows how like they've lost like the soul of themselves, because there's like, they're afraid of music. They're afraid of a marching band, an off-tune marching band.
When they started, I guess they were practicing and tuning up. I'm like, dude, I used to be in my high school band. I played trombone. I was better than this. But then, okay, they're practicing. They got better as they went along. To that point, Maggie Andres is saying that Paxson building the bomb reminds him of Nevik's response to using mercenaries. Why should they have any morals if the Empire doesn't? Oti's here. Oti, thanks for joining us. Don't listen to the first. Don't listen to the
He's
first 5
hanging out in
minutes.
Italy. Isn't he lucky?
Yeah, I know. It's just making us feel bad. Don't listen to the first 5 minutes of this episode. We didn't say anything bad about you. I took it back. No. Can't wait to have you back here in 2 weeks. But yeah, all the build-up to it was great. And I know Mo doesn't want me to read any more quotes, but I have to, because the funeral procession and then Maarva's big mess. Yeah, sorry. We're trying to finish this by 6, so I have to go through this. So every time, and again, I'm just not reading all of it, just pieces of it. So every time did that leave me with their truth. And then she goes about talking about herself, not because I want to shine or even be remembered. I want you to go on. Then she's talking about the Empire, and then they forgot about the Empire being there because they had each other. We were asleep. There is a wound that won't heal at the center of the galaxy. The Empire is a disease that thrives in darkness. Fight the Empire. They knocked down B2, and then someone got a kick to the chest and a brick to the head, and we all cheered for violence.
Yes, we did.
Big waking up and going, mother, I crave violence.
It was great seeing, I think, because B2 is just walking down. I think, is he gonna be the one to carry the brick at the end? Was his purpose there? Everything, all his gears are moving. And then we get this giant hologram that for some reason Star Wars knows how to use their holograms to inspire others. But the whole speech was great. And and everyone's listening, not just the people from Ferrix, the Empire. By this point, Luthen is there, Vel, Cinta, Deidre, everyone's there listening to this. So it's kind of that catalyst, that fuse to just light the fuse and go on. So I love everything about it. We already kind of talked a bit about it, but also just finishing this message, kind of the rally cry in front of the Empire, telling everyone, fight the Empire. It's going to happen. There was no other choice at that point.
So about this rallying cry, Maggie sent a post where apparently the original word was not fight, but something far more, can't say it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Which honestly, either way, what a brilliant note to go out on.
Mm-hmm.
Where she is not giving the Empire any space to think that they can work with this, that they can spin this somehow into like the ravings of an old woman or something pro-Empire. She ends it with like, fight the Empire, burn this down. That is my last message to you. And I was like, yes, a clear, sharp call to violence.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 episodes ago when Cassian and her are having that talk, she's like, I've been sleeping too long. I'm ready to join the fight again. And he's like, you're too old. Just go. You get cold. You need your blanket. Forget about it. But then it comes to this. And I'm guessing it's another word that started with F instead of fight. But it's Disney. We can't go that far. But we can all play with it in my mind. Maggie, I'm guessing.
That's what Fiona Shaw said.
Yeah, it's just in post. They just deep fake. They can do everything. They recorded.
Let's do 2 takes and see what they let us use.
Yeah. So Maggie, for you, just listening to this, and then just the fight starts. Paxson, sorry, I forgot his name, just throws that bomb. Everything blows up, and then the Empire just says, "Screw this. We're just gonna kill everyone. I don't care. Fire at will. Civilians are getting shot." Again, showing how evil the Empire is. They don't care. They're just gonna kill everyone there to kind of then pushes everyone to hopefully join the fight, as we see with Cassian at the end.
I loved everything about this. The action was perfect. The camera work was perfect. Look, like the visual intrigue of everything, like the smoke, the flashes, everything was just so good. I did want to go back to Maarva's speech because I don't remember the exact quote, but it's like, dies in the darkness, essentially. And I love that it's very clear that Tony got that from the Washington Post, because after Trump became president, they changed the tagline for the Washington Post to "Democracy dies in the darkness." And so it was like the fact that I could see that echoed into the way that he wrote the speech made me happy, because it's again, I love seeing like the real world like follow through into it and seeing where he picked up those threads. It's just very fun. And I love that speech. That speech made me cry. I love the idea of somebody who knows that they are getting ready to die and they're like, I'm gonna go out with a bang. Like I'm gonna make this be the rallying cry, because she knows that she's this prominent person in Ferrix. They're all gonna come to her funeral. Everyone is going to be there. So like, what can I do with my dying breaths to inspire everyone? And it's just fantastic. It's also the scene that apparently Diego Luna cried on set over.
And we can understand why. Like you said, all this smoke is going up, and we have Val. I think it is just running into the smoke. I think that Bruce Wayne in Batman vs Superman just running through the smoke. We needed her hero moment. I'm gonna talk about Val and Cinta in a minute, but while all this is going on, Cassian is underground, getting people mixed up. Oh, he's gonna be over here. He's already under the tunnel, going to the hotel to rescue Biggs. Which Biggs is so messed up mentally at this point. She is still, I had a dream that you were here. When he's trying to take her, he's like, no, they get angry. Like, we can't do anything. It's heartbreaking to see her that way, especially for him. But a great play, like we said before, that he wasn't part of this big Ferrix fight against the Empire. He had to, I'll take care of Biggs because she's here because of what I did. And then also the episode at the end, he takes her to this, not junkyard, but where they have all the other starship just to get there. But that was a great scene, and as the whole crap is going down, our creepy friend Cyril sees Deidre just walking. Oh, she's here, and even the other guy's like, "What the hell are you talking about? Just cool down, dude."
His every instinct is immediately overridden. He's like, Caesar.
He's like, Cassian. Deidre's here.
Yeah.
Cassian who? I don't know who that is.
Why am I here again? Oh no, my girly pop is here. Do I look good?
Yeah. I mean, I understand people have issues with shipping them, and I get it. He's creepy, he's a stalker. He's still and I don't ship people,
so
but I've been
icky.
saying
I love him.
Yes.
He's so icky, I love him.
And that scene, and going back to your articles, I saw one recent from Tony Gilroy saying, yeah, it was supposed to make you icky, but who knows how this is gonna play out in season 2? And
he made the swipe right joke, and I'm like, yeah,
yes, this is
like
Tinder,
two people
right?
on an alt-right dating app meeting
Cool.
each other.
But I said at the beginning, we haven't seen Imperial romances. I don't know if this is gonna lead to it. It's it's really bad. I'll take it.
It's so bad. It's so bad, but I want to see it happen just because I love being uncomfortable.
Arezou, are you uncomfortable as the panic in her eyes and the desperation? She's getting dragged around, and then he comes to the rescue. She's ready to kill him. Then she's, it's Cyril. Like, I know who the hell you are. What the F are you doing here? And then
she's like, there's nowhere I can go that this man is not just going to show up.
I feel like in the moment she's glad he's there, but whatever winds up happening with them in season 2, I said this on Space Office 2, I feel like she's going to kill him at the end of this. Like, she is going to shoot that man in the chest. So I don't know, but that's my thinking, is like, it's going to wear off at some point.
I just want to see him bring her home to Edie. I just want if we think those morning breakfasts are uncomfortable, imagine like a morning after breakfast and her being like,
Edie's gonna try to make her eat cereal, and she's like, what are you doing?
Like, what is happening in this household? Like, this is why your son's insane.
Yeah, I mean, she's outside the door just listening to it's like criticizing his technique. He's like, what? I'm sorry, this isn't After Dark.
This is
yes, I'll save that. But yeah, it was uncomfortable to see, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I had fun with it, but it was pretty uncomfortable seeing just people. Even they're Imperial, they're the bad guys, but seeing again, you said it, Maggie, I think at some point halfway through, it's the way everything gets shot, the way that scene was shot. Not just her, but the other Tig or the guy that knocked. I don't care. You can kill him. The way he just crawling through the feet of everyone, as people from Ferrix were just falling down every time they got killed or shocked or whatever. Pretty stressing to see, leading to that uncomfortable reunion. We'll see where it goes. Nick is adding that it was happy they didn't use Biggs as a character as a one-dimensional love interest. She's an independent businesswoman who Cassian relied on for his living and got tortured because she knew too much. Correct. And I love that none of our main characters died to push our story forward. Or they're not in Rogue One, or they're not in A New Hope, let's kill them. Whatever happens in season 2, whatever happens. But everyone that had a story moves on, which then leads to Vel and Cinta. A lot of people were wondering, is one of them not gonna make it? This lesbian relationship in Star Wars that we've never seen, it's pretty obvious that it's happening. For me, just seeing Vel, because Cinta is just about the cause. Of course, there's love there, but she's just, I was on my way to get you, but this ISB supervisor thing
like,
here.
I had to walk here myself.
Yeah. But you can see there's vulnerability in her eyes in Vel when she's talking to Cinta, trying to get her to communicate something else. Like put yourself out of the window. There's something there. And then I love that by the end they're still around. Hopefully we'll see them, of course, in season 2. We can get more with them. Were you surprised, Maggie, that not just that we got this type of relationship in Star Wars so obvious, but that they're still around and they'll hopefully play a big part in season 2?
I think because I had such high expectations and was so optimistic from the start, I assumed that everybody would mostly make it out. I didn't go into the finale, the final 2 episodes. I got the final 2 episodes together like 2 weeks ago. So I watched them together and I was like, I don't think anyone's going to die. I know like everybody was like theorizing that people are going to die, but I went into that completely expecting that because so many people's stories were not finished yet, that he was going to keep them at least through part of season 2. But we do know ultimately that Cassian's going to have to lose everyone because he says he's lost everyone, which is not great. But I did go into this expecting everyone to survive, and I liked that we got Cinta shanking Corv. Yes. That was magical. That was a great moment. She did it she was just like, no expression at all. And then when she's back in their like little house and Vel's like, you're bleeding. And she's like, it's not my blood.
Yeah.
So like,
she's ice cold. I love it.
Yeah. Also, were you as hopeful as Maggie that everyone's going to make it, or at least Vel and Cinta that were going to make it? Or you think at least someone wasn't? Are you happy, I guess?
I'm happy everybody made it. I didn't think anybody was going to die purely because Maarva had died. And I'm like, we know who these characters are. We kind of know their vibe, but I feel like Cassian doesn't have as much of an emotional connection with any of them that dying would mean something.
Sure.
Because even if Maarva dying isn't like, she didn't die to further his plot. She was elderly and sick. But like, there's nothing, it wouldn't benefit the story for any of them to die. So I was just like, okay, that's probably gonna happen in season 2, but for now,
because like if Vel and Cinta died, Cassian would be like, "Who died?" Like, I don't know who these people are. Oh, the ones that I did Aldani with.
Like,
which one were they? Oh, okay, okay, that's sad. I guess. Like, but once I feel like those characters are all at risk in season 2. Once Cassian's working with them and like has connections with them, and we know in Rogue One he says he's lost everyone. So like everybody on that little bus out of Dodge and has a target on the racks.
All right. So that bus, as they're trying, it wasn't, I don't know what ship there was. We have Jessie, which is one of the daughters from Ferrix, Pegla, Brasso, B2, and again, I forgot, Wilmon. Thanks, Maggie and Mo, because Mo is she's my Wikipedia. Every time I forget a name, Mo just tells me who it is. I'm glad I participate in my own trivia because I wouldn't do too well. But they all make it out of Ferrix. Cassian's there. Everyone's happy to see him. Biggs is still... Cassian's always comes back. He'll find us. Oh, we always love.
Broke my heart.
Yes.
Poor baby.
And even B2, I didn't get to see you. Now you're leaving. And he's like, oh, you gotta... I'm counting on you. Oh, you always said that. And you always come through. It's like, oh, that love there. Also with our poor droid. But they all make it out. And we'll see what happens for season 2, which we know a lot of them won't make it. But before we jump real quick to a different place, not Ferrix, is Cassian is waiting for Luthen in the Fandor. Luthen gets there. Okay, let's get the hell out of here. Full stealth. And Kit, it's kind of, there's something wrong here. and Cassian's there, basically, kill me or take me in. What do you think Arezou changed Luthen's mind instead of killing Cassian? Do you think just Cassian saying that he wants to join the rebellion? Or was it maybe hearing Maarva's speech? For me, at least, I think hearing Maarva's speech that Cassian comes from this woman that has these ideals very similar to him kind of made him realize, okay, he'll be an asset, better than just killing him here.
I think Luthen was shocked, like just absolutely shocked into inaction, because he had this idea of Cassian being like the mercenary, the guy who doesn't care, like we can pay him to do the Aldhani job, and then we got to take him out because he knows too much. But Cassian just kind of showing up and being like, well, recruit me or kill me.
Yeah.
He's like, hang on. I have wildly underestimated this man. So I think that was Luthen's primary thing, like as the episode ended, was just pure shock.
Okay. Maggie, and for Cassian, because I took it the same, again, the whole season, it seemed going down this path, but was there something in Maarva's message or that final message, that hologram, that pushes him to, okay, this is where my path lies. I can't just be going and running around doing jobs here and there. There's something bigger that I should be part of. Do you think Maarva's message helped him kind of finally make that hump?
I have the definitive answer of that since Collider asked Diego about that, so I wrote up the breakout about that. But yeah, essentially, I believe in terms of what he said was like the drive was Maarva, and also like the fact that he's reached this point where he's realized this life isn't worth living unless I'm living for something. Like he's been so broken by all the events that have happened that he's realized that, like, well, I guess what Luthen said at the beginning of the series about, like, do you really want to just keep breaking off parts of yourself, or do you just want to give it all? And I think he's finally reached that point. Like he's seen what the Empire will do to people who are innocent. He's seen what the Empire will do to his community. And then he's heard what his mother's like dying wish was. And so he's pushed finally to the precipice. Yeah.
And I swear this episode is not sponsored by Collider, but go check all those articles.
Look, I've written 25 articles this week about Andor, so I like just everything. Every time I close my eyes, I just see like the words Cassian Andor.
Yes, but they've been great, and I did read a few of them before this just to make sure. And I read this, and yeah, he talks about this. I think there's something else. I see two different things kind of pushes him, but again, great thing about Star Wars and this series, we can all make our little assumptions of what it was. All right, so moving away.
There's a lot of things leading up to that.
And that's why I don't write TV shows, because if it was me, episode 3, it's already part of the rebellion. We're on our way to Yavin.
You can't do slow burn.
No. Give me Mandor. Episode 3, we're already on our 5th planet on our 7th mission. No, I love. I told you that when we talked the first time, I love that we got this 3-episode arc, because other shows, I love them, but we have gotten this in a 30-minute episode. We have gone through the whole thing. We needed this slow burn.
I mean, can we look at how many hours of Andor we got when you calculate up these 12 episodes? It's like it's like a movie and a half. It's impressive.
We're only halfway there. But then we jump to Coruscant. Let's talk real quick as we finish up. The Empire went after Krieger and his 30 men. Didn't put up a fight. We found out that Blevin, which I was missing Blevin for a little bit, we show up. He was part of this. Well, let's talk about our favorite couple out there, Mon Mothma and Perrin Farga. Fartha, thank you. I'm thinking I'm dumb. Did you guys pick up when they have that argument when she goes to pick him up? Oh, you're gambling again. Where you getting all your money? Oh, you're lying. Tell me who said this. I'll tell you why. Blah, blah, blah. No, he's not hearing. Of course he's hearing. Did you guys pick up that this was all a farce just because they knew they were being spied on? Because I'm like, whoa. Come on, Perrin. Don't be so bad. Maybe he's telling the truth. And when I watched it the second time, they said it later on. I missed it. But was it that obvious?
I don't know. I mean, it was set up in, I think, episode 4, where Mon mentions that her driver is listening, is always listening, so she can't really have conversations in her car. So I feel like they dropped that in like such a minor way early on, and she obviously needs a cover story. This is why I was like, parents not all bad, because I knew this poor man is getting ready to get framed.
Yeah, so again, you just said I don't do slow burn, so that's why I didn't pick from 4 episodes ago. I mean, 6 episodes ago. Uh, but also, then, are you surprised that Perrin is in on this, helping Mon Mothma cover where all the 400,000 credits went? Because leading up to this, at least myself and a lot of people are like, Perrin's the worst. He doesn't care about anything. He's going to be the reason Mon Mothma leaves the family. Well, actually, he might be helping out a little bit, covering where all this money is. Then when they go meet with freaking Davos Coldon's family, he doesn't want to be there. His eyes is like, his face is like, this sucks. I don't want to bring my daughter into this. We heard that in the previous episode. Are we turning a corner on Perrin? Was he not as bad as we thought? Don't get
My
canceled.
reading on Perrin until this very second was that I didn't even clock that he might be in on this. I thought she just threw him completely under the bus.
Okay.
Starts leveling these gambling accusations at him, and he's like, I literally don't know what you're talking about.
I was eating
Just
something.
as a way to like get, she's thinking that the driver's going to tell the Empire, and then that will account for her money thing.
Okay.
And Perrin is just the fall guy. He just happens to be in her way. It didn't even occur to me that he might be in on it until this second.
Because the way that it's I think it's again one of those things where it's left up to interpretation. Because I see like my initial watch, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe she's making him be the fall guy for this, and he's like taken aback because she's been like sulking in the car like she does every time they go out. And then rewatching it, I was like, it was so scripted, but it is a scripted TV show, so it's like it's hard to tell like how much of it is like actual surprise and so much of it is could be this ruse.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he has to know that his kid's getting ready to get married off. I mean, she would have had to have that conversation at some point. So
I wanna say that she's not throwing him under the bus. I don't know. Maybe I don't know why I'm turning that corner on Perrin. I don't know. I mean, he's not the best husband. We'll give him that. I know Maggie, you had on your shows talking about being a good father.
He doesn't want his daughter to be in the same situation that he has been in. On, so I mean, you have to give him like a
good dad,
a small,
if not a good husband.
Yes,
good
and
dad,
I
bad
think
husband.
that's it. Yes, I think that's it. But again, when I watched it the second time, and it didn't occur to me when I watched it the first time. I read some articles saying that this is the way that Mon Mothma can hide all her money issues. And like, okay, makes sense. And then I started to think, was Perrin in on this? And I wanna give him the benefit of the doubt. If he's still out there, I think we talked at some point, can there be a redemption arc for Perrin? I said, no way. Maybe. All right. So as
he'll get redeemed and then die.
He'll get a kiss of gratitude before the
end.
We had to. You guys mentioned Ben Solo earlier. We had to
come
full circle as we finish up. So again, we're finishing up. Maggie, last kind of thoughts, season 1, and then I don't want to go too much into what you hope to see in season 2, or at least one thing that you hope to see next in 2 years from now.
Oh gosh, 2 years from now, I'm really excited about whatever they're going to do on Yavin. I secretly hope that we're going to get some like connections to the Damerons. That's like my one wish, and I think there's potential for that to be a cameo that's not aggressively annoying, because those are characters we've only ever really seen in books and have heard about. We've never actually seen. I could see those two being introduced in a fun way on Yavin, and that's like my one pipe dream. I'm sure it won't happen, but it's what I would like to see happen. But this season has just been unreal on so many levels.
Yeah. And that would be a good one. It, like you say, won't be something that a lot of people will be kind of waiting for. And for some casual fans that don't read the novels or the books, they might not even know who they are till the last name is kind of spoken. And then they can go and follow those stories. Arezou, for you, just final thoughts in this whole first season, if there's something that you're hoping to see next time.
I thought first season was really good. What I hope to see next season is Bail Organa.
Yes.
I know we're talking about, like, it's great. There's no big cameos. I'm like, but also Jimmy Smits.
But they work. They work.
Because it would make sense. Because he's friends with Mon Mothma and, like, all of that. So even just a one-off, even just him, like in Rogue One, he's just kind of in the room and then he leaves the room. Like, I don't know. It'd be nice to see Bail again.
Yeah. I mean, for myself, this whole season worked perfectly. it was everything that I hoped the series will be in terms of showing us both sides of the Empire and the Rebellion. And now the Rebellion, we didn't get to see it actually full on. I think season 2, with all these time jumps, we'll get more into it. I was one that was saying we're gonna get Bail Organa, we're getting Krennic, of course we're getting the Emperor. It makes sense for him to be in the Senate. We might get it, so everyone else, but I'm glad that we didn't. But I'm hoping that we get at least Krennic. Kind of makes sense now that we had that post-credit scene. We didn't get to talk about it. They were building parts of the Death Star, which what a lot of people kind of thought was gonna happen. But I love that they waited till the end. It's just this minimal part that goes into the big radar dish. Is inconsequential, but they need so many, and of course that's why they had them working basically 24 hours, everyone over there. But I think it makes sense to bring Krennic at least for one scene. But yeah, Bail Organa has to be there. Has to, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
All right, so for everyone in the chat, Andres, Nick, Mo, Observer dude that just got here, thanks for joining. I know you're talking about the prequels. We all love the prequels. Oh, sorry, I took that out. And sorry if I missed someone else that was Andres. I think I mentioned you. Anyway, everyone that's on the chat, thanks for being here. Oti, of course, Oti was there. And Maggie, Arezou, you know I love when you guys come on here. We'll have you again next year when we come back. Where can people find you, Maggie?
You can find me on Twitter at Maggie of the Town for the time being. And you can find a link tree in my bio to all of my other various things. If you want to find me on Hive, I'm also at Maggie of the Town there. I'm also Maggie of the Town on Tumblr. So yeah, you can find me out there writing.
And go read all her great Collider articles about Andor and everything else. Arezou, same. Where can people find you while you're working on?
So I'm on Twitter at Arezou Amin. I'm at ArezouD2 everywhere else. So Tumblr, Hive, Instagram, if that's your thing. You can also find me at Collider. You can find me at ArezouD2.com. I finished the Kenobi Jedi Apprentice series, so I'm very slowly but surely posting those. So that's my accomplishment for that.
All right, so everyone go check those out. Those links, at least our Twitter link is on the description down below. You can follow us at Radio Rebel Pod on Twitter, Instagram, also on Hive. I'll say my honeymoon period on Hive is kind of coming down. I'm like, okay, it's a good Twitter substitute if it ever goes down, but I'm kind of like over it a little bit right now. But anyway, we're not here to talk about it. That's it. Thanks for joining us. Season 5 was great. All our guests for Andor and for the 27 episodes we had. Make sure to be here in 2 weeks for our trivia finale. That's going to be great. A lot of great contestants. Have a happy holidays, Christmas, and everything else that you might celebrate. Thanks for being here. Stay safe, be safe, and may the Force be with you.